Good morning, students. Today we are going to start our new chapter, chapter number 16 of your Fundamentals of Physical Geography book. The name of the chapter is Biodiversity and Conservation. So let's start the chapter with its name. What do you understand by biodiversity? As we all know that biodiversity word is composed of two words, that is bio and diversity. Bio means life and diversity, that is variety. So biodiversity we can say that is varieties of life, या हम इसको ऐसे कह सकते हैं the diversities or number of variety of species of plant and animal life within a region. So biodiversity is the diversity or the number or variety of species of plants and animal life within a region. That is the literal meaning of biodiversity. Conservation, as we all know, that conservation is to protect, is the wise use of natural resources, is conservation. So biodiversity and conservation, the name of the chapter we discussed. So in this chapter, we are going to discuss various biodiversities, such as that biodiversity are also of various types, genetic, species, ecosystem. तो उसकी बहुत सारी varieties हैं, उसके types को पढ़ेंगे. Then we will study the importance of biodiversity, the ecological role of biodiversity, scientific role of biodiversity. Right now, the circumstances in which the loss of biodiversity, endangered species, etc. we are going to discuss in this chapter. So let's start the chapter. You have already learnt about the geomorphic processes. We discussed geomorphic processes, that is processes which are at the surface or at the interior, endogenic and exogenic forces. Geomorphic processes are further divided into endogenic and exogenic. So these processes are geomorphic processes, particularly weathering. So weathering is a exogenic process because it occurs at the surface of the earth, not in the interior. That's why the weathering is exogenic forces, and depth of weathering mental in different climatic zones. See the figure 6.2 in chapter number 6 in order to recapitulate. So you should know that this weathering mantle is the basis for the diversity of vegetation and hence the biodiversity. The basic cause for such weathering variation and the resultant biodiversity is the input of solar energy and water. Students, as we all know that different type of climatic conditions, different types of surface supports different types of vegetation, different types of surface, different types of climatic conditions support different types of vegetation. अगर मैं plants की बात करता हूँ, if I'm talking about western part of Rajasthan, that is Thar desert, then it support, this area support thorny bushes. This area support thorny bushes or dry deciduous or thorny bushes vegetation. तो हर एक एरिया डिफरेंट टाइप से जो है वेजिटेशन सपोर्ट करता है, वहां की सॉइल जो होगी वो भी उसी के अकॉर्डिंग होगी, और एनिमल स्पीशीज भी वैसे ही होंगे. जैसे कैमल, कैमल एक डेजर्टिक एनिमल. व्हाई इज इट डेजर्टिक एनिमल? व्हाट? बिकॉज वो डेजर्ट में इजीली सरवाइव कर लेता है. कैसे सरवाइव कर लेता है? ड्यू टू इट्स स्किन कलर. पहली चीज तो इसका स्किन कलर जो है. सेकेंड थिंग, जो उसके लेग्स हैं वो इजीली उसको डेजर्ट और सॉइल में चलने के लिए क्या करते हैं? सपोर्ट करते हैं. उसके बाद में उसका जो वो कई टाइम तक पानी को स्टोरेज करके रख सकता है, क्योंकि हर जगह पानी अवेलेबल डेजर्ट के अंदर नहीं है, तो उसके अंदर कैपेसिटी है वो इतनी जल्दी थर्स्टी नहीं हो जाता है. So different type of we are going to discuss the different type of climatic condition, different type of area supports different type of living forms, that is plant species and animal species. So no wonder that the areas that are rich in these inputs are the areas of wide spectrum of biodiversity, and those areas which having very good climatic conditions and which having good quality of soil and all, and these areas are very rich in biodiversity. It means they having a huge diversity or number of variety of species of plants and animals. Rich in biodiversity means जहां varieties बहुत ज्यादा है, plant species की भी और animal species की भी, that is rich in biodiversity. So no wonder that the areas that are rich in these inputs, here inputs are solar radiations, air inputs are good climatic conditions, rainfall, good quality of soil, or the areas of wide spectrum. Spectrum here means is continuous, wide continuity of biodiversity. Here it means continuous. Now, read this box. Yes. So biodiversity as we have today as the result of 2.5 to 3.5 billion years of evolution. So this biodiversity, you see the diversity, the number of variety of species of plants and animals, they are not result of few years. That is the result of 2.5 to 3.5 billion years of progress and development. That is progressively developed after this long period of time. So before the advent of humans, our earth supported more biodiversity than in any other period. And before the advent, देखिए ह्यूमन भी जो है वो भी एक टाइम पीरियड के बाद आया है. ऐसा नहीं कि अर्थ बनते ही ह्यूमन उस पे था. पहले लाइफ फॉर्म्स आई थी, प्लांट्स आए थे, फिर कुछ एनिमल्स आए थे, उसके बाद फिर लास्ट में जाते हुए ह्यूमंस आए. ये हमने सब कुछ इवोल्यूशन ऑफ एंड ओरिजिन ऑफ अर्थ चैप्टर के अंदर डिस्कस किया. वी डिस्कस दिस ऑल इन origin and evolution of the earth chapter. So before the advent of human, before the coming of human on earth, the earth was more rich in biodiversity. वो ज्यादा रिच थी क्योंकि देखिए अब ह्यूमन ने क्या किया, ह्यूमन की बहुत सारी ऐसी एक्टिविटीज है जिन्होंने नेचुरल नेचुरल जो हमारी हेरिटेज है उसको क्या किया है, डैमेज किया है, डिस्ट्रॉय किया है. Okay, so with yes, since the emergence of human, however, biodiversity has begun a rapid decline. There is a rapid decline in the number and variety of species. The with one species after another bearing the brunt of extinction due to overuse. So due to various human economic activities, various species dying out. These species are dying out in a bad end. हमारे ह्यूमन की हमने हमने हमारी ऐसी बहुत सारी एक्टिविटीज इन्होंने नेचुरल हेरिटेज को डिस्टर्ब किया और बहुत सारी वेराइटीज जो उनको पूरी तरह से क्या कर दिया है, एकदम खत्म कर दिया है. The number of species globally vary from 2 million to 100 million, with 10 million being the best estimate. If I am talking about the number and variety of species over the world, around the world, if I'm talking about the number and variety of species, then it is in between 2 million to 100 million, that is approx. And if we are estimating best, then it is near about 10 million. New species are regularly discovered, most of which are yet to be classified. And even there are various species and varieties in the world which are yet to be identified. अभी तरह से अभी तक उनको identify नहीं किया गया है. Even अभी तक हमें जो है काफी exploration की जरूरत है. About 40% of freshwater fishes from South America are not yet classified. Not classified yet. Tropical forests are very rich in biodiversity. Why tropical forests are rich in biodiversity? What is the example of, give an example of tropical forest? We all are familiar from Amazon forest. Amazon forest is a tropical forest in the South America continent. And that Amazon forest is very rich in biodiversity, in number of variety of species. And why so? Because that forest receiving high temperature and high solar radiation and high precipitation. So that support the growth of the plants, that support the varieties of plant species and animal species. Okay, now yes, biodiversity is a system in constant evolution from a viewpoint of species as well as from viewpoint of an individual organism. The average half-life of a species is estimated at between 1 104 million years, and 99% of the species that have ever lived the earth are today extinct. तो 99% of the species जो थी, जो कभी रही थी, वो आज नहीं है, टुडे एक्सटिंक्ट है, मतलब बिल्कुल वो जो है नियर अबाउट डाइंग आउट है. So biodiversity is not found evenly on the earth, as the climatic conditions of the earth are not same at every area. Soil is not same every area. तो जब टेम्परेचर पूरे अर्थ का सेम नहीं है, सॉइल सेम नहीं है, प्रेसिपिटेशन सेम नहीं है, प्रेसिपिटेशन सेम नहीं है, तो फिर हम कैसे कह सकते हैं कि भाई बायोडाइवर्सिटी सेम होगी? तो बायोडाइवर्सिटी भी सेम नहीं होगी, बिकॉज देयर इज अ ग्रेट differences in the climatic conditions, great differences in the topography. There is a great variation in the topography, climatic conditions. So the biodiversity is unevenly distributed on the earth. The biodiversity is unevenly distributed on the earth. So it is consistently richer in the tropics. Why it is consistently richer in the tropics? Because the reason is these are constantly richer in the tropics, because tropics are receiving higher solar radiation and tropics are receiving higher precipitation. Higher solar radiation and higher precipitation supports what? It supports variety of plants, variety of species of plants, and it also supports animals, because animals ultimately depends upon plants for their life. Herbivores are directly depends upon the plants, and carnivores which are depends upon the herbivores for their food. So it is somewhat like food chain, and that's why the tropics are richer in the biodiversity. As we all know, the meaning of tropics, the area which lie near to the equator, that are tropics. The area that lies near to the equator, that is tropics. And the area in between 23.5 degree north and south of the equator, that is tropical area. तो tropical area और tropics वैसे एक ही चीज है. आप उनको tropics of Cancer and tropic of Cancer, Capricorn, these are also tropic. So these areas are somewhat rich in biodiversity. As one approaches the polar region, one find larger and larger populations of fewer and fewer species. So at the polar area, the biodiversity is less. The biodiversity वहां पे क्या है? कम. अगर वहां पे स्पीशीज हैं बट उनकी पॉपुलेशन, तो स्पीशीज कैसे है? नंबर में तो कम है, बट पॉपुलेशन में क्या है? वैरायटी तो उनकी कम है, पॉपुलेशन उनकी ज्यादा है. तो वेराइटीज नहीं है, वेराइटीज अवेलेबिलिटी नहीं है पोलर रीजन्स के अंदर. So biodiversity itself is a combination of two words, bio and diversity. So we already discussed about the literal meaning of biodiversity, that it is composed of two words, bio which means life, diversity which means variety or number of species. Here we are talking about, and bio is what? Bio is plant, life kisme hai? Plant and animals. Other than these, all are non-living things. So these are bio. So biodiversity means the variety or the number of species of plant and animal life within a region. So in simple terms, here the definition of biodiversity given. Biodiversity is the number and variety of organisms within a specified geographic region. It refers to the variety of plants, animals, and microorganisms. The genes they contain, as we all know, genes, that we have genes or some chromosomes which are transferred from our parents to us. हमें अपने पेरेंट्स से क्या मिले हैं? वो कुछ एक क्वालिटीज मिली है, हेरिडिटी. जैसे अब हम सारे ही ह्यूमन हैं, आप भी ह्यूमन, मैं भी ह्यूमन है, लेकिन देखिए हमारे अंदर फिर भी क्या है? डाइवर्सिटी तो फिर भी है. किसी की हाइट कम, किसी की हाइट ज्यादा, किसी की हाइट ऑप्टिमम, किसी का कलर कैसा है, किसी के अदर जो फीचर्स है वो कैसे है. तो ये सब कैसे आया हमारे अंदर? ये सब डेवलप कैसे हुआ? सो दीज आर डेवलप थ्रू जीन्स. हमें एंसेस्टर से, हमारे पेरेंट्स से, पिछली जनरेशन से जो क्रोमोसोम्स और हेरिडिटरी क्वालिटीज जो है, जीन्स है, क्रोमोसोम्स और ट्रांसफर हुए, इन्होंने ये डाइवर्सिटी बनाई है. सो द जीन्स दे कंटेन एंड द इकोसिस्टम दे form. Ecosystem here stands for environment. So it relates to the variability among living organism on the earth. तो जीन्स की वजह से भी variability. आप देखिए एक ही तरह का कोई भी देख लीजिए. यस अगर हम बात करते हैं, आप और मेरी बात करते हैं, क्या हम ह्यूमन बीइंग सारे के सारे सेम है? नहीं, हमारे अंदर भी क्या डिफरेंसेस है. रिगार्डिंग हाइट हो सकता है, रिगार्डिंग कलर हो सकता है, रिगार्डिंग आईज हो सकता है. आईज रेटिना हो सकते हैं हमारे, किसी के ब्लू होते हैं, ब्राउन होते हैं, ब्लैक होते हैं, मिक्स होते हैं, ग्रीन होते हैं. तो ये भी डिफरेंसेस आ गया. किसी का नोज कैसा है, किसी के हेयर्स कैसे हैं. तो ये सारे किससे मिले हमें? जेनेटिक डाइवर्सिटी है. दीज आर जेनेटिक diversity, which we will discuss in our next paragraph. Yes, so biodiversity is our living wealth. So biodiversity definitely a living wealth. Variety of plants होंगे, variety of species होंगे, तो these are our wealth. So it is result of hundred of millions of years of evolutionary history. और ये सब develop हुए that are progressively developed after a long period of time, after a long development. Biodiversity can be classified at three levels. So biodiversity can be classified at three levels. The first one, that is genetic diversity. The second one, that is species diversity, and the third one, that is ecosystem diversity. So there are three types of diversity you can see. The first one genetic, second one species, third one ecosystem. What do you understand by genetic diversity? Genetic diversity, the diversity that is coming from heredity, that is coming from our parents, that is genetic diversity. Next one, that is species diversity. Species diversity means variety or class में जो changes है, that is species diversity. Species diversity means class or variety diversity. Next one, that is ecosystem diversity, that is environmental diversity. So these three types of diversities are there. So we are going to discuss each. So genetic diversity. Okay, so genetic diversity is related to the origin. Our origin से related है. So genes are the basic building blocks of various life forms. Genes ही क्या करते हैं? सबसे पहले डेवलप होते हैं. बेसिक जो हमारे वेरिएशन है वो किससे आते हैं? जीन से ही आते हैं. So genetic biodiversity refers to the variation of genes within species. So genetic diversity is what? That is the variation of genes within a species. Within a species means if I am only talking about the human, as we all know that human is genetically belong to the Homo sapiens. किससे बिलोंग करते हैं? होमो सेपियन ग्रुप से बिलोंग करते हैं. लेकिन हमारा कलर, फिजिकल अपीयरेंस, ये सब डिफरेंट है, एंड दैट डिफरेंस इज ड्यू टू द जेनेटिक डाइवर्सिटी. जेनेटिक डाइवर्सिटी की वजह से ही ये सारा का सारा क्या है? डिफरेंस है. Organism has certain similarities in their physical characteristics are called species. Human beings genetically belong to Homo sapien group and also different characteristics such as height, color, physical appearance, etc. considerably, and this is due to the genetic diversity. So as we discussed this thing, this genetic diversity is essential for a healthy breeding of population of species. And students, this is very important for our immunity too. कि हमारे जीन्स जो है वो हर जनरेशन में क्या होने चाहिए, उसमें कुछ डाइवर्सिटी आनी जरूरी है. तो जितनी डाइवर्सिटी आएगी उतने हमारे जीन्स क्या होते जाएंगे? स्ट्रॉन्ग होते जाएंगे, हमारी इम्यूनिटी अच्छी रहेगी और हम जो है मोर डेवलप्ड होंगे. सो दिस जेनेटिक diversity is essential for the healthy breeding of the population of species. इसी की वजह से आप देखते हैं कि हम आप काफी जो हमारे ट्रेडिशंस हैं जो उसमें क्या है, दूर दूर जो है मैरिजेस होती हैं, दैट इज ड्यू टू दिस. जो पुराना सिस्टम जो डेवलप है ये इसी की वजह से है, क्योंकि नेक्स्ट जो भी हमारी जनरेशन हो उसके अंदर एक डाइवर्स जीन्स जो है वो ट्रांसफर हो बजाय सेम की. Next one, that is species diversity. Species we can say type or kind of स्पीशीज डाइवर्सिटी मतलब क्या हो जाएंगे, टाइप्स ऑफ स्पीशीज ऑफ काइंड ऑफ वेराइटीज. So this refers to the variety of species. This refers to the variety of species. So it relates the number of species in a defined area. तो species diversity क्या हो जाएगा, आप देखिए, आप species diversity में अगर आप देखेंगे तो डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ जो प्लांट्स हैं हमें जो मिल रहे हैं, दैट इज उनके हर एक की स्पीशीज क्या अलग है. यस, 1 minute. So the diversity of species can be measured through its richness, abundance, and type. Some areas are more rich in species than other. Area rich in species are known as hotspots. So those areas having a huge variety of species are known as hotspots of diversity. And here one map is given. Here one map is given. The map of world map is given, figure 16.5, the ecological hotspots of the world. You can see. So these are hotspots of the world, or ecological hotspots in the world. You can see this. Yes. Open your book at figure 16.5. You can see these are the hotspots in the world. You can see Central American highland forest, Central American lowland forest, Western Ecuador and Colombian Choco. This is South America continent. You can see tropical Andes. Andes वैसे यहाँ पे क्या है, mountains range है, Atlantic forest of Brazil. So these are hotspots because here there is a huge variety of species are found in this forest. In this forest the huge variety of species are found. और ये सारे के सारे अगर आप देखोगे ना तो सारे के सारे कहाँ है, ट्रॉपिक्स पे ही है. पोलर एरियाज में आपको ज्यादा बायोडाइवर्सिटी नहीं दिख रही है. यू कैन सी द पिक्चर ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. यू कैन सी you can observe that all the biodiversity hotspots are located in tropics. सारी बायोडाइवर्सिटी आपके टॉपिक, ये देखिए, अपर यूरेनियन फॉरेस्ट, ईस्टर्न आर्क माउंटेन तांजानिया, ईस्टर्न मेडागास्कर, दिस इज मेडागास्कर आइलैंड. In India, India is very rich in biodiversity. Western Ghats, that is located in the southwest part of the peninsular India, that is very rich in biodiversity. Eastern Himalayas are also very rich in biodiversity, and Sinhara's forest, Sri Lanka, Indonesia. So these are the hotspots in the world, and these all are very rich in biodiversity, students. Now let's talk about the next diversity, that is इकोसिस्टम बायोडाइवर्सिटी. और हॉटस्पॉट अगर आप देखिए, आप क्या सोच रहे होंगे कि हॉटस्पॉट तो हम नेट के लिए भी यूज करते हैं कि ये वाईफाई हॉटस्पॉट है, या हॉटस्पॉट देना हम नॉर्मली डे टू डे लाइफ के अंदर ये वर्ड यूज करते हैं. तो दैट हॉटस्पॉट, देखिए एग्जैक्टली हॉटस्पॉट का क्या मतलब है, अ प्लेस दैट इज नोटिशियबल या फिर नोटेबल फॉर द हाई लेवल ऑफ एक्टिविटी. जो हाई लेवल ऑफ एक्टिविटी के लिए क्या है, नोटिशियबल. हम कहते हैं वाईफाई का हॉटस्पॉट है, तो वहां पे जितने भी लोग बैठे हैं तो वो वाईफाई क्या कर सकते हैं, यूज कर सकते हैं. नंबर ऑफ, वो नोटिशियबल है, वो उसे यूज कर सकते हैं. हॉटस्पॉट्स उसको बोलते हैं हम. नंबर ऑफ कनेक्शंस जो है वो ज्यादा हो सकते हैं, कम हो सकते हैं. जैसे ही यहाँ पे डाइवर्सिटी के रिगार्डिंग हॉटस्पॉट यूज होता है, तो इट मींस दैट प्लेस हैविंग अ हाई लेवल ऑफ बायोडाइवर्सिटी, दैट इज अ वेरी हाई लेवल ऑफ बायोडाइवर्सिटी, दैट इज हॉटस्पॉट. Next one, that is ecosystem biodiversity. So you have studied about the ecosystem in the earlier chapter. The broad differences between ecosystem types and diversity of habitats and ecological processes occurring within each ecosystem type constitute the ecosystem diversity. तो हमने कुछ एक, जैसे हर एक इकोसिस्टम का जो टाइप है उसमें अलग अलग टाइप्स की क्या है, वैरायटी है. जैसे देख लीजिए, मैं बात करता हूं आपके, if I am talking about the areas which are located at altitude, तो वहां का अपना एक अलग जो है इकोसिस्टम है, अल्पाइन इकोसिस्टम है. तो वहां पे स्पेसिफिक जो है आपको वही वेराइटीज देखने को मिलेगी. तो इकोसिस्टम, द बाउंड्रीज ऑफ कम्युनिटी एसोसिएशंस ऑफ स्पीशीज and ecosystem are not very rigidly defined, thus the demarcation of ecosystem boundary is difficult and complex. तो हम वैसे तो demarcate नहीं कर सकते, दिखा नहीं सकते भी हाँ ये ecosystem है, ये यहीं तक क्या है लिमिट है, ये ecosystem यहीं तक. Look at this figure 16.1, the grassland and the sholas in Indira Gandhi National Park. The grassland and the sholas in, ये sholas है, ये plants है, shola is here plant in Indira Gandhi National Park, Annamalai, Western Ghat. That is an example of ecosystem development क्योंकि वहाँ की अपनी एक unique climatic condition और altitude है that support a particular type of plant species, animal species, and that we can say that there is a ecosystem. So that is ecosystem diversity. Now the next topic, that is importance of biodiversity. So biodiversity has contributed in many ways to the development of human culture, and in turn human communities have played a major role in shaping the diversity of nature at the genetic, species and ecological level. Biodiversity play the following roles: ecological, economic and scientific. So now we are going to discuss the importance of biological biodiversity in ecology, its importance in economy and its importance in scientific also. तो हम ये अभी discuss करेंगे. Yes, we are going to discuss this in our next class. आज के लिए जो है importance of biodiversity up to introductory part यहीं तक करेंगे. Okay. So now